Well, if you've been following along with the face frame training plan, you made it to the end. In this one, I'm going to walk you through finishing up this small kitchen I've been working on and get it ready to send to production. Now that means making sure that all the product specs are set up correctly and creating that work order. So let's get into this last video on working with the face frame library. So if you watched the style and rail modifier video, then this should look familiar. This is the small kitchen I'm getting ready to process. I got some rollouts in the base cabinets, the farmhouse sink cabinet with the frame modifiers, and all these cabinets have the Microvellum MDF profile doors. With the uppers, I have the glass door prompt turned on, and inset panels at the applied face frame ends. Now before adding these products to the drawing, the first thing you'd want to do is set up the project specifications. The project wizard is where I set the default sizes, inset doors and the toe kick type, and then the global variables for all the face frame settings. The base, tall, and upper are separated, so you can set up different parameters for each product type. For example, the face frame overlay on the cabinet carcass, or the width of the stiles and rails. In the 2D settings category, there are a couple variables that can be turned on that will affect the reports after creating a work order. Be sure to review these and select the ones that you need. For the 2D drawings and face frame images, I'm going to want to make sure these bottom two variables are checked. Now to turn on the MDF profile doors, open up the door wizard, and under door options, you can find the different door types and door styles. Turn on MV profile door to use doors that will be cut out with profiles at the CNC. I'm just going to use the square shaker style, but we also have other options to choose from. Just save and close, and then we're going to move on to assigning the correct material for those doors. In the material file, there's some new pointers added as of the 24.0919 build. That's the library version, not the software. These pointers will need to have the 3/4 MDF assigned to them, and these are also separated by the base, tall, and uppers. All right, almost done with the setup. The final thing to do is making sure that the cabinets are using the correct hardware, especially since these are face frame cabinets and will most likely be using a different hinge or hinge plate. And here's where you can make those changes to that face frame hardware. By default, my doors are set up to use the Amarok hinges when doors are full inset, and the frame overlay is set to outside. Now all the cabinets in this project, except for the tall refrigerator cabinet, have the frame overlay set to the inside, so they're using the option B hinge. I changed that hinge type here to match the one below. Select the ellipsis button to open up the hardware library, and pick the hinge to use here. The same thing goes for the hinge plates. If needed, select the new plate from the library. So before just jumping right into the work order, I want to go over a couple things I did to get this kitchen ready for production. The first thing is just quickly verifying the material for the doors. So going into the material options and the product prompts, you can see the material being used. We got MDF, so that's looking good. Next, the way to turn on the glass door. It's just a simple prompt in the subassembly, but something to pay attention to is the internal profile. I'm going to go ahead and draw a new cabinet so I can show you what happens after selecting the glass door prompt. There we go, that internal profile changed, and now I got nothing. So if this happens, be sure to select a profile from the list, and now that door will draw correctly with the cutout for the glass. Or if you're getting tired of always getting that blank name and you want to change it, you'll need to go into the lookup table in the Door Wizard workbook. Then add the internal profile to the row of the door type being used in column 41. Now that name will appear automatically when turning on glass door. Another thing is the face frame applied ends. These have inset panels and stiles where the uppers and lowers occur. Open up the subassembly prompts of the full applied left end panel, and you can create multiple panels by checking the boxes for adjacent base and upper cabinets. And these other prompts appear where you can set the location for the stile and rails. Once you're happy with that, on to the next cabinet, which is the sink cabinet. This guy needs a small cutout on the top of the stiles to accept that farmhouse sink. When you need to add machining to a part, you can use 2D Part Editor. But before going into 2D Part Editor, it's a good idea to check out the part's machine point and part properties. This way you know which corner to select for that cutout. This one has a machine point of 8, and that blue dot is representing where it is on the part. Now into 2D Part Editor to add that machining. Now, since I already have it on the corner that I need, I'll just go ahead and add it to the bottom corner. Now, having these routing tools makes it simple to add a corner notch. It's already got a tool selected, so next we'll be selecting the corner to start, then the width, which in this case will be the dimension in X, and the height, which is the dimension in Y. Now, because I didn't set the depth, it's just using the default depth of 1/4 inch from the tool file. Make sure to update the part and redraw. All right, and there it is. Now to delete it, just open up the 2D part editor again, select the polyline, and delete. And again, update the current part from the list. And lastly, before processing, a simple 2D drawing showing the face frame images. But real quick, just a little trick on joining these tops together. For presentation, I want to show a continuous top, so you can use the AutoCAD Union command to get rid of those joints. Enter the command and select each top. When you're done, just hit enter. This is going to be just for drawing purposes. It doesn't actually change the data in the subassembly. Now on to the 2D drawings. Go to the Draw tab, and in the 2D drawings is the command to draw product face frame tokens. These are 2D drawing tokens that are part of the face frame subassembly. So if you want to see that data, you'll need to open up the Edit Design Data, and in the spreadsheet, at the very end of the prompt sheet are the face frame drawing instructions. If you want, you can go ahead and manipulate this data here. So if the 2D drawings are looking good, you don't need to make any changes, it's time to add it to one of the sheets for presentation. Okay, now it's time to create that work order and send these cabinets to production. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and create a work order from the drawing. But you can also do it from the product list or from the work order list. Just make sure to capture all the products to process and give it a unique name. This option here will create WF images for all the parts when printing reports. So check this box and proceed to process. This usually takes a few minutes, so I'm just going to go ahead and fast forward through it and jump right into the processing center. Now, something that not everyone is aware of is that some of these reports are generated right after the work order has been created. So you don't necessarily need to process every part in the processing station to see some of these reports. Here are a few of the reports that you can take a look at now and start preparing for anything that needs to be purchased. This face frame report is a good one. It won't help with purchasing, but this will give you the details for the people assembling in the shop. This is all the data from the 2D face frame drawing tokens. We also have the master cut report that will give you a list of all the different parts and sizes. The product detail report is also a good one. Then this shipping manifest for when it comes time to ship these cabinets out the door. And lastly, before processing all the parts, we can take a look at the solid stock report to figure out how much linear feet is needed for this project. Okay, so now let's go ahead and select the parts that need to be processed. Now I'm going to do this in 2 batches. The solid stock will be first, and then the sheet stock. You can group like material together by just selecting in the material name column, or to filter out some of the material, you can use this arrow here. Now this will allow you to show or hide just the material you want to see. Then be sure to assign the correct processing station to the selected parts, and because these are just single parts, the point-to-point is the processing station to use. After processing is complete, you can check out the single part G-code results. Now this will only show WF images and G-code for the parts that have machining applied. The other ones are just straight parts, so they're all left blank. Now this report is generated after all the parts are processed with the correct processing station. You can use this to see each face frame part and all its data. Then this point-to-point report has the barcode for each part so they can be scanned at the machine. Now on to processing the second batch. Now first I got to make sure that all the material is showing, so turn those back on. And then because the 3/4 beach is already done, the processing station needs to be removed from those parts. And grouping it together makes it easy to make sure that they're all selected. Then go ahead and clear the assignment. Okay, batch 2 is all the sheet stock processed with the default nest station. Once parts are assigned, hit that process button, and Microvellum will optimize the parts in the background. To see the nested parts, open the drawing under the nest options, and there are all the parts that are ready to be cut. Included are the MDF profile doors, all the melamine for the cabinet interiors, and the panels for the applied ends. For all these parts, you'll want to use the nesting optimization report. Everything that you need for the operator at the machine and which parts need to be labeled is right here. All right, and that'll finish up the process on creating a work order and preparing a project to send off to production. And that'll wrap up the training plan for the face frame library. If you made it through all the videos, congratulations, and be sure to stay tuned for more MVU training content coming soon.